The purpose of this video is to help you remember how to use algebra to solve for radius, diameter, circumference, and area. So what we've learned recently is these three formulas. The circumference formula, the one that you use when you know the diameter of the circle. The circumference formula, the one you use when you know the radius of the circle. And the formula for finding the area of a circle. So with those three formulas, sometimes they will give you the diameter and ask you for the circumference, but sometimes they'll give you the circumference and ask you for the diameter. Sometimes they'll give you the radius and ask you for the circumference, but sometimes they'll give you the circumference and ask you for the radius. Sometimes they'll give you the radius and ask you for the area, and sometimes they'll give you the area and ask for the radius. So this chart, if you look at this column here, this is the measurement that you're given. So in the problem, it might say the diameter of a circle is 12. This column shows the measurement that you're looking for. So the diameter of the circle is 12. Find the circumference. So when you're doing a problem, you want to find out which row of the chart matches the problem that you're doing. And when you look across the rows, you will see the formula that you need to use and what the units will look like. If it's a measurement that you can measure with one ruler, those are linear units. Diameter, radius, and circumference are linear units, just straight line segments, even though the circumference is a straight line segment wrapped around a circle. But if you're finding the area, you have to use square units like centimeters squared. One other thing, if you need the exact answer, then use pi as a placeholder to represent the infinite digits of pi. Your answers will look like 27 pi centimeters. If you need the approximate answer, take your exact answer and hit the SD button on your calculator, and then you'll have decimals, sometimes filling up the whole screen, and you round off the decimals to meet your needs. In this example, it says that the radius of a circle is 31. So they're giving us the radius on this problem. So we know the radius, and it says find the circumference. So we know the radius and we're looking for the circumference. So on this problem, this is the row that we're using, the radius and circumference row, and it tells us that we need to use the formula C equals 2 pi r, and our units are going to be linear. In this case, since the problem has inches, our units are going to be in inches. So to solve this problem, we take our formula, C equals 2 pi r, and in our problem, the given information is the radius, so I'm going to put 31 in for the radius, and I'm going to leave c as my variable, and I'm going to solve for c. So my circumference is going to be 2 times pi times 31. When I multiply 2 times pi times 31, I get 62 pi. That is the exact answer. But on this problem, it says round the answer to the nearest hundredth. So when I press the SD button on my calculator, I'm going to get this answer, 194.77874445. And because I'm rounding to the nearest hundredth, I'm going to keep 2 decimal places, and you can see that that 8 is going to bump up the 7 to an 8. And so my final answer for this problem is that the circumference is equal to 194.78. And our answer would be in inches, but the directions say not to include the inches in your answer, because on the Google form where you're putting your answer in, it only likes numbers to be plugged in as the answer. So if you start putting letters in, it will not let you submit that answer. So for the Google form, you're just going to put in 194.78. On this example, it says the circumference of a circle is 376.9911184 inches, and they want us to find the radius. So on the problem, our given information is the circumference, and they want us to find the radius. So given is the circumference, and we need to find the radius, so we're going to use the same formula, c equals 2 pi r, like we did last time, and our units again will be linear. So we have c equals 2 pi r. This time they're telling us the circumference. So we're going to replace the c with a number, and we're going to leave the r as the variable in the problem. So we have 376.9911184 equals 2 times pi times the radius. So now this is the part that we're really practicing today. What algebra do we need to do to change this equation into an equation where the r is by itself? So r is the variable that we want to get by itself. The very first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides of the equation by pi. So I divide by pi, and I divide by pi. And again, I'm just using pi as a placeholder. My calculator will take care of all the decimal parts of it. This actually makes the problem easier. So what's left after I divide by pi is 2r on the right-hand side and 120 on the left-hand side. And my final step is I need to divide both sides by 2, and 20 divided by 2 is 60. So on this problem, the radius is 60 inches. And in the directions, it says not to include the units in the answer. Remember, that's only on Google Forms because they don't want you to put letters in, just numbers. So the answer that we would want to put in on Google Forms is just 60. On this final example, they say the area of a circle is 804.2477193 square meters. Notice it's area, so the units are squared. How many squares does it take to cover this circle is what they're asking, or they're telling us. Find the radius. So we are looking for the radius, and we know the area. So our known measurement is the area. The one we need is the radius. So we're going to use this formula here. And we have area equals pi times radius squared. And they gave us the area. So we're going to replace the a with the number, and we're going to leave the r in the formula. That's the variable that we're going to solve for. So a is 804.2477193, and that equals pi times radius squared. So again, we want to get the r by itself. So my first step is I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by pi. And again, we're lucky because we can just use pi as a placeholder. We don't have to worry about all the digits of pi right now. And so when I divide 804.2477193 by pi, the answer that I get is r squared equals 256. So I'm one step closer to getting the r by itself. The next step, this is the one where people are most likely to make a mistake. Right now, it's not telling us that the radius is 256. It's telling us the radius squared is 256. So we're going to need to take the square root of both sides of the equation so that our r squared becomes an r, and our 256 actually becomes the radius. So we take the square root of both sides of our equation, and the square root of r squared is r, and the square root of 256 is 16. So on this problem, our radius is 16 meters. And the reason that the units aren't squared is because the radius is a straight line that you can measure with one ruler.